Hello, folks. Welcome to our new segment that we're kicking off here on KBMW, and we're kind of hoping to do a monthly podcast is kind of what we're hoping for. Kind of something that we can dive a little more into, a little longer form, maybe like a 30 to 60-minute episode if we're lucky enough, if we can keep your interest that long. But it's something we're hoping to do monthly here, pick out local sports topics of interest, usually like kind of historic stuff, because that's the stuff that we really love around here. And we figured we'd pick out some topics that kind of give us a reason to kind of look back on the last 20 years, because that's all we can really, be really confident in, because we're like in our 30s. So we thought it would be fun to do a list of our top 15 Breckenridge football running backs and guys who played running back too. There's going to be some tweeners on here, but
first things first, probably a little bit of recency bias here, like you said. That's why we try to keep it to, we try to keep it to the last 20 years, so it's kind of what we know. Turner's more of our Friday Night Lights guy here, so take my list with a bit of a grain of salt.
Dive into it. I don't know if you want to do the honors of leading us off, Robert, with your number 15 for your pick for your top 15 Breckenridge running back of the last 20 years.
Yeah, I'll start it off here. We'll start off the list with maybe a surprise pick here, kind of going off
a dark horse.
A little dark horse, big dark horse. Number 15 for me, I put Quentin Hemmah on here.
Quentin Hemmah, that is a dark horse pick. Shout out to Quentin. Let's do a quick little rundown of him. I want to say we don't have the years written down on some of these, apologies, but I want to say Tommy Heideman's class.
Tommy Heideman's
We're going to be doing a lot of that thrown around with class names. So I believe kind of a struggling year. A lot of guys with the injuries that year gave Quentin a time to shine. Tell me a little bit about what he did with the opportunity.
So Quentin here, he started off his high school career as a Tri-State Tiger for Fairmount Campbell Tinter Rossholt, and freshman year in the 9-man scene, he was averaging like 239 yards a game. Goodness. So a little flash of red lightning out there. Quentin kind of glowing in the dark on the football field. Just a great athlete. And then he got into a little bit of trouble, spent the next year and a half at Duluth Juvenile Detention Center, came to Breck for his senior season 11 days before the season started, and he had to learn kind of 11-man, going up from 9-man to 11-man, had to learn a whole new playbook, and immediately slotted in behind Tommy as the change of pace back, and he was ripping off 50, 60 yards a game. I think he had 5 rushing touchdowns that year, and it's kind of like a feeling of we got robbed, of what we could have had, because of life circumstances that happened, but just being able to come in and learn the playbook and take some of that pressure off the workhorse Tommy Heideman. And I think in his second game, he had a 39-yard reverse touchdown against Roseau. So just seeing a flash of what Quentin could do, and then
big
him
play
stepping
threat,
in
for
and
sure,
making the most of his touches. It was nice to see kind of the rebirth of Quentin Hemmah. And I just think him coming from where he was to where he ended up gets him a spot at number 15 on my list.
For sure, and we already knew so many of his brothers, so it just made more sense when we finally got a Hemmah back that we could get out on the football field.
Yeah, talking about those brothers, they just got into a wrestling match at the lake, and unfortunately Quentin tore his ACL and his MCL and his PCL, so we're not going to see him on a football field anytime soon, but maybe flag football in a couple years after the rehab.
I really hope so, and that's going to be your dark horse pick that maybe if you're saying you got a bias toward, I'm going to really show my bias here. After a few honorable mentions first, some guys who just missed out on my top 15. First off, we have Zarek Reif, who was a home run threat out of the backfield and also a really good receiving threat out of the backfield. Probably would have been a receiver most years, but they needed him to run the ball quite a bit his senior year. And then I had Ryan Voss, an old teammate of mine, fantastic, like you said, change of pace back, and an absolute monster on the power dive. Travis Marianowski, Mr. Reliable on a very good Breckenridge offense. And then my man Jack Agner, Cowboy himself. The guy was literally had the nickname Cowboy, so lived up to the name. He was a fantastic running back. Then we also have Paul Armitage, a recent graduate. Had to show Paul some love, too. Had a really good career. Really got off to a really good start. Was just kind of spoiled with the line that he had off the bat.
Dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Dogs.
And then when he got kind of older, his role kind of changed a lot, too. Offense changed, too. But Paul was still a very reliable back for them. Just missed out on our top 15. But I'm going to lead off with a guy who actually kind of made his bread more as a receiver, but played enough running back to justify the spot. Here's my bias here. I'm actually going with my first cousin, Easton Urbis here. Shout out to Easton. He had a marvelous senior campaign. Fantastic senior year. One of the fastest guys I've covered. He's about 6'1", 6'2", so he's got like kind of one of the bigger frames, but just jets up the sideline. Like I said, they use him in a variety of different ways out of the backfield. I know we're just doing running backs, like his running back skills, but he got to showcase the receiving skills out of the backfield on multiple times, wheel routes and stuff like that.
Over the years at Breck Sports Talk, one of my favorite things Turner was doing nicknames for players, and he had one of my favorites, All-Purpose Urbis.
Ooh, I somehow missed that one. That's amazing.
And then he went on to play a little bit at UND too. He's part of the roster there, D1, so definitely a top-level talent.
And then we'll go into my number 14 too, because I think this segues nicely, because this is going to be another guy who was used in a variety of ways and also more so made his hay as a receiver. Stephen Litt, who also had some great moments, as a running back too, but we know that's kind of what he's first and foremost, but he was such a good ball carrier out of the backfield, out of that wishbone, that we had to throw him on here too, especially that senior year he had. Yeah,
Stephen was kind of a complete back, just by default of his athleticism, but he was too good that you couldn't give him some carries. And, one of the greatest playmakers to play at Breck, so he
for sure.
Kind of gets his, his spot on this just by lineage alone, what he brought every night to the field. And if he was a full-time running back, I think he'd be higher on this list. But
for sure.
Like you said, we're kind of taking it as a backfield only.
Oh, yeah, but he was, I think he had a 4 or 5 touchdown game against Warroad. I remember on the road, that's kind of like when it was like, oh my goodness, they are really maximizing Steven out of the backfield. That was kind of the real green light.
Some highlights in. We got some good HD highlights from that game, so you guys will be able to see this on the video.
And then also, he had some good running backs that he was sharing the backfield with, that I mentioned Travis Miranowski earlier, but also got to show some love to Trayton Hout too, another guy who was that's a really good backup to have on your team. And but Steven, his senior year, he got thrown into kind of more of a workhorse role and definitely lived up to it. If who do you got for your number 14?
14 on mine. I got Parker Bussey in here at 14.
Nice.
We kind of talked about this before, but just a touchdown vulture, and maybe he doesn't do the dirty work to get down there, but he's got a nose for the goal line, and I think there's always I got a lot of love for the goal line backs, because doesn't matter if you get down there if you don't have somebody who can punch it in, and Parker could punch it in, and that's why he makes number 14 on my list, because you got to score more points than the other team to win the ball game, and
for sure,
you knew you could give him the ball and get that extra 2 or 3 yards.
Yep, he's gonna make an appearance on my list too. I'll make sure to show him some love then, unless you want to spend a little more time on him right now, or do you want to loop back to him when I pop him up?
Since we're gonna get a double dose of Parker, let's just loop back to him when he shows up on your
okay,
list.
Sounds good. He's gonna be pretty soon here, but we're on to number 13, or you want to do your number 13 first?
We'll just go back to back here. I got Cole Prouse at number 13 on here. Just talk about a tank. He's a tank. Pure strength from Cole. He took that from wrestling, great wrestling family, took that to the gridiron. And I heard stories from Jeff Ellingson about the teams of the 80s, how they would prank each other. Like 2 or 3 players would pick up a car in the parking lot and move it to a different spot. And I think a guy like Cole Prouse would have fit in with that group pretty good. If you folks didn't know, his nickname was Buff.
Oh, yeah.
So, just one of the stronger backs on that team, and a long line of Breckenridge wrestlers who are also very good in football. So Cole Prouse, my number 13 on my list.
Cole, I graduated with Cole, so longtime teammate. I got to see it up close, how dynamic he could be. That was kind of what flew under the radar, because everybody knew he was a load and a good power back. Fun fact about him, I'm pretty sure he scored a touchdown in almost every game, despite only playing in the garbage time, for offense his junior year. So he had 6 or 7 touchdowns as a backup his junior year. And then his senior year, thrust into a starter role, and was actually our go-to back the first 4 weeks, because Steven was out. So then when he came back, it was more of a kind of split carries thing. But he had an incredible senior year. That senior year basically alone can lift him up here. But like I said, he'd come in junior. As a junior, he would also be doing it as a fullback. Crazy enough.
Yeah,
so he'd be
fullbacks largely omitted from this folks, and we could get around to a top 5 on that.
Gavin Peterson for sure would be on this list. Would probably be in our top 10 if we were including all ball carriers. But that's my bad. I probably should have thrown that out there right away. But got to show Cole some love. I was surprised when I kind of did a little survey for a lot of old teammates I had, or not old teammates, a lot of guys who also played Breckenridge football who had a lot of love for Cole. So I'm going to go to my number 13 pick. I'm actually going with a current Breckenridge player. I'm actually going David Erlinson.
David Erlinson. And some time to climb up the list.
Exactly. He could definitely move up a few spots by the end of his senior year, but I think what he's shown already, he's already proven that he's at a top 15 back over the last 20 years. He had some glimpses this past season before he got hurt, where it looked like he was going to be it looked like Steven came back. It was absurd. I had to do a quick little double take, it seemed like, but dynamic guy, getting bigger So he's a physical load. He's probably bigger than Steven was, but then obviously isn't a fullback like his other two brothers were. So he's kind of he's kind of a bigger version of him, I would say, but we'll see if maybe he can take another jump here with busting off, maybe showing off the speed a little bit more this year. But I think we're going to expect big things from David this year. How about you? Or what do you think for David?
Yeah, so David, he'll be coming up on my list shortly as well, folks. So we got to stop giving away the next picks on here. But yeah, David will be coming up on my list. So I'll talk about him a little bit more in depth when we get there. But
we went in blind. I wanted to see what Robert had drawn up.
I think he's a good blend. You take all the Erlinson boys, and he's a good blend, and he might be the shortest of the bunch. I know Steve wasn't, the tallest guy, but I think he might be the shortest of the bunch, and he has, he's getting up there in power, like his other two brothers, and the speed that Steven presented, and I think we're kind of seeing him take all those things from the family lineage and kind of put it into one. And I really don't know what to expect this year. I think he's going to probably surprise all of us a little bit.
Okay. We're at 13 for mine. Do you want to stick with my number 12 or have you said your...
I'll jump into 12 here because that's where I got David here.
Nice.
At 12. So
that's perfect.
David Erlinson hops into the top dozen for me. We're kind of just witnessing the development of him. And, he's built like a brick house. Oh, yeah. You see that kid. He's been in here. He's going to intern for us, too, which is cool.
Oh, heck yeah.
And he's an
golden voice.
Yeah, golden voice. That guy's got a future in radio. Shades of Raleigh Lip. Shout out Raleigh. But, no, he's very intelligent, too. And that's the one thing about the Erlinson family. And anytime you can have a guy like that in the backfield, I don't think running back gets thought of as, like, high IQ as much as maybe an O lineman or a quarterback. Yep. But he's definitely very smart. And I think him and Hunter Feigum have the highest energy of a duo of backs, not together, but they played several years, but the highest energy to lace it up in the Breck backfield. And I don't know what the Erlinsons feed the kids, Turner, but when they combine it with the weight room, you get a specimen like David. And take a look at his family. Greg and Daniel, two of the best fullbacks to come through here. And then, of course, the elusiveness of Steven. We're seeing a little bit of that, too. And he's becoming a complete back, and that's kind of put him in the top 12 range for me.
And then for my number 12, we're going to go back to Parker Bussey, who I say, we were talking about being a TD machine, and I also would love to shout out a guy who's like a reliable guy for like 6-7 yards. That was another thing that Travis Miranowski was great at. But like as far as like getting you those medium slashes, that are helping put together good drives, and also we're going to mention one of his teammates later, too, how he's a good change of pace, because they had about 4 different running backs to choose from that year. They had a lot of mouths to feed in that backfield, and Parker was kind of the reliable one who would usually cap off the drives a lot of the time, but he was also good for being used in different ways. They could kind of split him out every now and then, have him run some slant routes and whatnot, so I thought they made good use of Parker, so he was my number 12, and you got your 12 already, so...
yeah, my 12 is David, so you just...
Gotcha. So let's do my number 11, which I have Cole as well, so we kind of got him in that nice same little range there, but Cole, if you guys want to see, we're probably going to mix it in here, but the TD he had against Wahpeton, like alone, was like Cole's coming out party, I guess. He had a really good game against Pelican that year. That was probably his best game, and then his best moment. Got to shout out him getting the game-winning 2-point conversion in our victory over DGF. That was probably my favorite memory of watching Cole, kind of win us a game. That was awesome. Let's get to your number 11.
So my number 11. I got Jack Heidemann at number 11.
Nice.
A little bit of background here about Jack.
Yep.
So, yeah, they shared the backfield together. And Jack, I played baseball with Jack my super senior year of Legion, and he was just returning to sports after overcoming cancer behind his knee. And he was still getting taller. As you know him now, he's a pretty tall, lanky guy. And he was maybe 140 pounds soaking wet. He caught some innings for us, the most physically demanding position on the field. And then you saw that he make a forward turn, and he really became a hard-nosed running back. So like he's tough, and you got to have a couple tough guys on this list. I just think he punched well above his weight as a running back, and that was big for me. And a guy who works hard like that, you can't always measure that in the box score. So I think we have a good list here of some of it's maybe pure talent, highlight plays, some of it's production. Like you said, guys that they're good for 5-6 yards. That's how it. And then I think some of it is just players that have that edge too. And Jack for me was one of those guys who had an edge to him, and if I recall, there was a time where he had a nice big afro during his high school sports career too.
So. I got a good picture of him and Aaron Nepple after a game one time. Shout out to Nepp.
Shout out to Nepp too.
You got some consideration, my man. I haven't forgotten about you out of the wing, but I remember you as my fellow split, so I don't remember you out of the backfield as much. But Jack's gonna get some love on mine. I think that Jack maybe didn't benefit from. It was a crowded backfield, like we mentioned earlier. And maybe that goes the same for Parker, but I think Jack more so took a dip because we got to see the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. I remember in the Wahpeton game, he had both of their TDs. We got to see him kind of be a big play threat. So you almost wonder what would happen if he was the main future back that got all the touches. But yeah, what could have been? He still made the list. And can I go on to mine now?
Yeah, so that rounds out my 15 through 11.
Okay, sounds good. We're going to loop back to the Heidemans too, but I got Chris Nito to kick off my top 10. The first of the two Nito brothers. We're going to be seeing Cam on here too. And Chris was a fantastic guy who actually, when he moved here, was a QB and ended up showing up at a place that already had two QBs because it was Cooper and Jack Agner also was a capable guy that could have been a quarterback. So they were like, well, we're going to go with Coop. He's our guy, and then we'll move the other guys to some other spots and hope they thrive there. And oh boy, did Chris. I can't believe he used to play quarterback with seeing his open field moves. Like the way he has a good spin move, his stiff arm, he was the whole package. Like as far as my favorite guy to cover for being a complete running back, I think Chris checks all the boxes.
Yeah, definitely a true running back. If this list is about running backs and it doesn't get any more textbook fundamental than Chris Nito. Didn't see him split out for passes. You didn't really see him in the blocking game a lot either. It was just hand him the ball and like you said, down in distance, just putting him in 2nd and 5, 3rd and short and stuff like that. And nobody was better than that at Chris. Maybe where he lacked a little bit of the highlight stuff, he got the job done, what it needed to be done. And he'll be on my list in a little bit too.
Oh yeah, he wasn't as strong physicality as Cam, because Cam is will put a guy in the ground.
Oh yeah,
hits him so hard. But Chris had that physicality, but more so that was part of the equation. It wasn't the big thing.
And we look at the Erlandsons and they could say, we're siblings and some of the best running backs to come through here, and then you can look at the Nitos and you could say that too with that tandem of Chris and Cam
for sure. And so that was my number 10 pick. You want to do your number 10?
So let's jump into my top 10 here. And this guy gets a bump on my list in comparison to yours. I got Paul Armitage here.
Big fan.
Jack
Big fan. I'm good with the Paul love.
So Armitage,
listen him up.
Little trip here with how he got here. He came on with 135 yards and 2 or 3 scores in the section semifinals at number 1 seed New York Mills as a sophomore. And he was an afterthought in the offense until that game. I mean, I don't think he'd gotten double-digit carries. He certainly hadn't had a 100-yard game. He busts off. They destroy New York Mills. They go on to destroy everybody in the sections and really behind Paul. Yep. Paul was the driving force there.
Cam was out with an injury.
An injury. Opening kickoff to the house in Breckenridge's state tournament loss to Minnesota, who went on to win the state title, and that was the only points of the game. So that was kind of like Paul's etching his name in Breck history, that section playoff run. And what I really liked about Paul was he was so good at falling forward for extra yards.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd turn his body sideways to maybe just get a couple extra yards, extend the play, maybe drag an ankle tackler a couple yards, and just turning a 3-yard run into a 5-yard run or a 6-yard run. He was really, really good at that, and just kind of did everything you want from your lead back. And like you said, it kind of shifted. David joined the backfield. They did some running stuff with Riley Kappas this past season, but when it came down to it, bread and butter was Paul, and he's a section champion, and he's number 10 on my list.
I also like the development we got to see from Paul, from the big play, a home run threat when he was a sophomore, to kind of rounding out his game more and being just a physical load by the end of his senior year, while still having that speed, of course. But it's like he was two different players, but they were both good.
Most of these backs have the same theme. Whether they started off as a complete back, they ended as a complete back for most of them. We don't have a lot of one-trick ponies on this list, which I like.
For sure. And that was your number 10 then?
Yeah.
Perfect. We can go on to number 9 for me then. I got Tommy Heidemann, our second Heidemann, getting a shout out on here. And obviously I'm going to have Jack later on, so I have him a little higher. But naturally, I have those two interlinked because I got to cover both of them. And Jack was a few years younger than me, and then I think I got to cover Tommy his whole career. Tommy Thunder.
Oh, yeah.
Got to shout out Tommy Thunder, man. Oh, I love that kid. 2,000-yard seasons. One of them is junior year on a very nice offense that was pretty loaded with as far as having Stephen Lipp and Carson Yagi. That's as good of a QB receiver tandem as the school's ever had. So Tommy kind of also benefiting, and Andrew Crum was a big play threat that year too. So I really liked how tough Tommy was because he's one of the smallest guys on the field at all times. That's just a fact. But one of the most physical guys, he always made up for it, and somehow never got hurt. It seemed like I don't remember Tommy ever getting hurt. If he did, he didn't tell us.
Yeah, playing hurt maybe, but not missing any time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he had 1,000 yards his senior year too. Which I know the senior year, his senior class, I felt so bad for those guys because they were so snake bit that whole year and just couldn't really find a groove and needed to make a QB change during the year. So that's always hard to establish a flow when you're trying to do that. But Tommy was one of the bright spots of that year and was once again a two-time 1,000-yard performer. Different running style from Jack. I think Jack was kind of more of like kind of a slasher back, make a lot of guys miss. And then Tommy is like small but packs a big punch,
Yeah, short list of running backs that have 2 1,000-yard seasons. Unfortunately, we don't have that list at our disposal because they don't keep records for Breckenridge football. So that's kind of Turner's pet project. We'll see where he gets with it, but
I'm hoping to get records
definitely
for
a
like
shame.
the last 20 years if possible. Like if we can find a way, we'll probably work with Daily News.
The modern
archives. Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. We're trying around here, but. If it actually stats would probably make this worse because you'd say, why do you have this guy so high when he doesn't even have double-digit TDs this year? And I'll say, you just should have seen it.
Yeah,
this is almost all off the eye test. So I have Tommy. At my number 9, and then I had Jack at 8, actually right ahead of him. Like I said, those are just obviously going to be intertwined in my brain. I give Jack the edge a little bit. Like I said, I think he would have benefited more from being more of a feature back, kind of like what Tommy was. But Tommy's production obviously doesn't lie. Jack would probably tell you Tommy's better. I'm not sure. I think Tommy's a pretty humble guy, so he might say Jack's better. Actually, Tommy, come on. Officer Heidemann, what are we doing here? Don't lie to me, Tommy. What are we doing here?
Yeah, Jack was pretty happy to get the one up on his brother on your list. Didn't tell me who was actually better, but he was happy to put that one in his back pocket.
Oh, good. So where are we at for yours?
So we'll jump inside my top 10 now at number 9. I got Stephen Lipp at number 9 for me. Nice. In my mind, Breckenridge's greatest playmaker. You got guys like Casey Lipp and Brian Jacklich in there. But also a Gatorade Player of the Year finalist, primary receiver. But like I said, too good not to command some touches in the backfield, so they found ways to get him in there. Some of that was direct snap, too, running Wildcat.
Oh, I forgot about the Wildcat.
So that was really fun.
That actually makes him more valid.
It does, yeah. And you'd see a stiff arm inside the 5, as we'll post these video highlights. You'd see a stiff arm inside the 5 with maybe like a helmet slap to the ear hole. The next play, he could outrun the whole secondary, and then his cuts at the second level, like linebackers didn't have a chance.
He made them look silly.
You put a receiver with premium speed and footwork in the backfield, put him in the Wildcat, give him a little bit of a head start, and he was fun to watch. I believe he had 500-plus rushing yards, quite a few touchdowns, like you said, 4 in the one game, and then he had almost 1,000 receiving yards. So for all purpose, probably a top 3 guy all time.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely a top 5 for running back. He goes into to my top 10 because he's not a running back, but darn, he was real good, and that makes it even more special.
It's like a weird aesthetic thing when you see a guy like Steven run out of the backfield where it looks a little weird right away, but then when you see it work a couple times, you're like, oh baby, why weren't we doing this?
No limitations with this guy.
Oh yeah, Steven, he was underrated how strong he was too. Like you were saying with the stiff arm, he kind of like flew under the radar a little bit because he like was so fantastic at a lot of other things that you kind of overlooked how strong he was too. But like you said, he was. He could deliver a thump out of the backfield too. So Steven definitely deserves a spot in the top 10 on your list.
I got Caden McGow here at number 8.
I'll just let you guys know he's my number 7 too. So we'll just do that together.
Okay, so 8 on my list, 7 on Turner's list. Kind of what I had written down about him. Maybe the shiftiest player on this list. And his spin cycle was next level. Watching his spin rate.
Yes.
And he would hang players out to dry in the open field, and he makes my top 10 because of just the laundry list of 20-plus yard runs. So that's kind of his calling card for me. He was able to rip off so many big runs during his career, and maybe he'd have 9 carries, 105 yards or something like that. And if that's not a change of pace, I don't know what is. You get 40 yards from him, and then you just come back and surprise the team later after you give it to your early down back. And he was so important to those teams. Like I said, the spin move, just kind of playing that on repeat in my head right now. So we'll get some highlights of Caden in here too. And Caden McGow, my number 8, and And
My
you're
number
number 7. What do you have to say about him?
Oh, I also thought he was a good another good pass catcher out of the backfield as well. I thought they just he was really well utilized. His senior year, we got to really see him come on the scene. His junior year, he kind of slid under the radar a little bit, similar to his teammate who we're going to mention later on here. But his senior year, we're pretty much going off that on this, and he was so dynamic. Someone who I really feel bad not putting on my list because he just didn't really get enough touches out of the backfield for me was Brian Jacklich. And Caden McGaw, that's who reminds me of Brian
great
Jacklich.
comparison.
Like their hips, both of their hips are just outstanding. And in the open field, Caden, how big of a play threat he was at so many different levels, because obviously he was also good in the secondary like Bry, and then also could play receiver like Bry.
A little bit of return game.
Yep.
Good punt returner.
He got enough touches out of the backfield for me, though, because he was like all year he was playing running back his senior year, and then I believe got touches before that too. But so that's why Caden is my number 7. And who do you got for your number 7?
Got Jacob Visner here at number 7. I was debating putting him on the list because he played a lot of receiver stuff.
Another kind of weird tweener one, really good return guy too. He's anywhere you give him the ball, he's gonna make something happen. And his OTC game alone in the championship game basically vaulted him into where we both have him. Well, where you have him, we'll talk about where I have him later. But tell me a little bit about some of the things that you think just made him set him apart, because I think the big one for me right off the bat is his speed.
Speed is big for Visner, and obviously the just the elusiveness, the missed tackles. I remember he had broke 14 tackles on 2 runs in the same game. So I mean, he had like 11 broken tackles on 1 run. That means there's 11 players on defense. So a couple of those guys missed him twice, coming back at him. But several more on a touchdown reception out of the backfield on a wheel route against OTC. And that video shot by Tanner Werner made its way onto Snapchat by Sports Center Top 10 Plays with Pablo Torre. So maybe the only Breckenridge football player to find himself on ESPN Sports Center. So that puts him at number 7 on my list. So shifty, so elusive, and I know we're not talking about receivers, but the way he would just run up the seam and catch it right in the basket from Cooper Yagi was beautiful. But just so shifty, and he could stop. Like a lot of guys cut and they're moving, and then they'll hit it in gear again. I mean, he would literally completely stop, and the entire defense would go by him. His ability to stop, start, just kind of everything stopped around him, and I think that sets him apart from a lot of the other running backs.
His senior year, he definitely did take a huge jump with his physicality and the way that he shed tackles. Like you said, that weight room must have been visited often, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
He was tossing dudes. That was just a super loaded class that year. And so, like I said, he was in a crowded backfield too, but did enough to warrant that. Like I said, the OTC game alone is legendary, outstanding for Jacob Visner. So I'm going to go on to my number 6. That's good where we're at.
That's where I'm at too.
Perfect. My number 6 is Hunter Feigum. And Hunter Feigum was Caden McGaw's classmate and teammate. And that's as good of a 1-2 punch out of a backfield as I think I've covered. We'll talk about some running backs later that were also in the same backfield. But
you talk about lightning and thunder.
Oh, yeah, because Hunter was, I think I just formed a bruise just thinking about someone getting run over by Hunter Feigum. He ran like Brandon Jacobs. He was crazy. My favorite memory of him, it was against Crookston, and he bulldozed the same safety 3 times on the same drive. One of the times popping his helmet off and sending it flying. And I looked at my camera because I was working at the Daily News at the time, and I got pictures of the guy getting destroyed on all 3 of them. And I was like, man, if this guy doesn't
quit the office.
If this guy doesn't quit the sport tonight, he loves football more than me. Because that couldn't be me. What was something that I know you mentioned Hunter's motor earlier. We got to hear about that, because that's what made him such a great football player. Because as a running back, outstanding. I have him in my top 10. But as a football player, he was even higher, because he was that good at linebacker, and just his motor was unrivaled.
Yeah, as a guy with a high motor, and as a guy that I have coming up on my list, I'll keep a little bit here for the reveal, but nobody wanted it more than Hunter Feigum, and maybe he'd admit this himself as well. Maybe not the most physically gifted player. I'm checking in maybe 180 at his peak. But he's, like you said, he's playing like Brandon Jacobs. He's playing like he's 240 in the backfield.
I think he had a growth spurt his senior year. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'd bet a good amount on it that he had a big jump, because he was a different dude.
But being a two-way player as linebacker and as a running back who can easily handle 20 to 30 carries at his size, that takes more than ability. That more often than not, he's putting the hurt on the defense.
I was talking to a friend of mine who went to college for a few years, so he's like, I wasn't really watching Breck that often. Like, was Hunter that good? And I had to go find his huddle and send it his way. I was like, oh my goodness, dude! Like this kid would put the hurt back on dudes. He would never lose on collision.
These will be some fun highlights to put in.
If
we got a video of the helmet pop, and you're gonna want to see it.
I think I remember their fullback, who was also an Imdek. I'm spacing on his first name here, but I remember him being one of Imdek's like long lost relatives or something. But that was like the only time that I saw him like actually like stonewall, but not bring the other guy back forward, like actually like a true unstoppable force, immovable object.
Like 1 in a million time.
Yeah, he would just stonewall dudes. Like, and if you go watch his huddle tapes, it's a lot of we're talking about his linebacking too much, but he was just fun to watch. But the way that he would also bring the boom on the rushes too, hits just as hard as when he's a linebacker. So he was so fun to cover.
So he's number 6 on your list?
I have, let me double check. I have him at number 6, right ahead of Caden McGaw. So I got them just netted right next to each other.
So I'll jump into my number 6 here, and then we'll be kind of in the finale here with the top 5. My number 6, I got Tommy Heidemann up here, so he gets a little bump on my list. And a lot of this for me was, like we said, we're blending a lot of different things we could use to tier this. And for me, it was production, super consistent, and the best ability is availability. Excuse me.
I don't know how he's never getting hurt.
And he's out there. I remember him rolling his ankle, spraining his ankle one game, and I'm like, knowing what a sprained ankle is like, it's you can't cut and stuff. And I mean, he's out there playing anyways. But Tommy, for me, he was unique because most backs are either downhill or jump cut style guy. So he was one of the rare backs. He could get north and south and side to side at the same time. So there's really no dancing around in the backfield. You see a lot of that happen behind the line of scrimmage. For Tommy, he would get in the hole, and he would make those cuts and those reads while he's moving forward, which it's hard to have that vision and slow everything down and break down what's in front of you when you're past the line of scrimmage. So Tommy was a good downhill runner, but at the same time, he was making those jump cuts on a dime. And, I just rarely see the blend of a north-south runner that can cut like that. I mean, obviously he's not all-day Adrian Peterson, but the comparison, you're moving and you're also putting your foot in the ground at the same time, and I think that was kind of what made Tommy jump up to number 6 on my list.
Yeah, underrated how elusive he was.
Solid yard rusher.
Yep,
so
two times. And it's tough to. The little guys are so elusive all the time just by nature of just being little guys. But
and another guy who would really be able to weasel his way in for extra yards. Maybe it all closes up after 3 yards, but he's going to make himself lateral and make himself pencil thin and just fall forward for 3 or 4 more yards.
Yeah, it was like he was defying physics whenever I would see him finish runs and still fall forward, because it's like you just hit someone like twice your size. How did you keep the momentum going that way? That doesn't really make sense to me. But so he was kind of an anomaly that we got to cover, but he was really fun too. Into our top 5 then?
Yeah.
I got Jacob Visner at my number 5. Like I said, that OTC performance looms large. That could have been the only game he played that year, and he'd probably still be in my top 5. But
legacy pick. If that was his only game, he probably would have been up there still.
That whole year was, I mean, his senior year and his junior year, he was really good and really dynamic, and could really score out of any situation. But when they could get him the ball out of the backfield a few times a game in what was once again a crowded backfield, it was a nightmare for defenses to try to run him down. My favorite, one of my favorite Scott Nolf memories was doing a broadcast with him, and how sure he was when Vizzy broke through the second line and he just said, he's gone. And he's gone. Like, because there was still 50 yards to go, and I was just cracking up on the air. I was like, you were so sure about that. He goes, what? We haven't seen anyone faster than him all game. Who's going to run him down? I was like, yeah, that's fair. I don't blame you. So he's my pick for my number 5. How about you?
Moving into 5 on my list, I got Chris Nito all the way up here at number 5. And for me, this is more of a peak thing, and then just the definition of a running back too. And of course, a gruesome knee injury derailed his senior season. But we're talking about a pure runner here in Chris Nito. And when he hit the hole, he was able to really determine, what angle he needed to get 15 to 20 yards. He didn't have leave you speed. He had good speed, but I mean, he would cut it to the outside and pick up 20 yards because that's where the angle was. If he needed to stay center, he would fake a cut outside and stay center for 10 more. So he knew the dimensions of the field. So he had the mind of a running back, the role of a running back, and that's why he's number 5 on my list of running backs.
I know sometimes it's kind of, I sound a little bit like a square when I'm talking about like some character stuff on this one too, but the coaches also all just rave about his work ethic as well when he was on the team and in the backfield. So
And now he's early on in his MMA career.
Yeah. So still working hard at something.
Took a KO loss in his first fight, and you know what? Right after the fight, he said, "I got caught with a couple punches, and now I'm going to go back to the drawing board and figure it out and get back out there." So that says a lot about that kid. He'll figure it out, and he knows the X's and O's, and good luck to him as well when he gets inside the octagon.
Oh yeah, those running back skills will translate somehow, I'm sure. And let's move on to my number 4 pick. We are going with another one where, you know what, I don't think I'm going to get any heat for this one because sometimes I have bias a little bit for the guys that were older than me. You know, that just happens. I feel like maybe they looked a little better because I was younger at the time.
They don't make them like that no more.
They don't make them like that no more. No, the older you are, the better you used to be, I think is what Mr. Lindbergh says. But my pick for someone who I think lives up to a top 5 running back and a complete running back is Peter Nelson at my number 4. Peter Nelson was on that 2007 Breckenridge team. Probably the best Breckenridge team I've ever seen, and was the most elusive running back I've ever seen. And he was elusive both because he could make you miss and because he was a physical specimen too, because he was the dude was a monster out of the backfield.
And we're talking about, we said this earlier, the neck pad days.
Yeah.
Everybody looks a little bit bigger, and everybody was a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Peter was, and he could score a variety of ways. They would run screens for him and stuff too. And, whether it's a toss or a handoff, if you need to get a couple yards, if you need to bust off a run, there's some of the best clips that I've ever seen on any of the highlight videos are Peter Nelson breaking about 6 different tackles. Like we were talking about Vizzy. The only one I can think of that compares with that Vizzy one was Peter Nelson on like 2 or 3 occasions. But a great every down and amazing running back. And his junior year, he might have even been a little better than his senior year because his senior year, the backfield got a little more crowded, but still his senior year, he still had a dozen TDs, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, and then a really good junior season as well. I don't know what you remember from going into the games. We were like in junior high when Peter was playing, I think. Or you might have been.
Yeah, that was only a few years before I dropped out of school, so I wasn't getting to a lot of events. But no, Peter Nelson,
incredible.
Also number 4 on my list.
There you go.
So we'll just jump into that since we're talking about the same guy in the same spot. And we're only going back 20 years. Of course, in the 80s, we saw the backfields with Brad Abel, Bruce Yagi, running back by committee. But as far as the last 2 decades, I think Peter was kind of the guy who, big part of starting running back U at Breck.
Oh, yeah.
Before the Cowboys became known for, 40 to 50 rushing attempts, 300 plus yards, which is what we see on a weekly basis, even when they lose, I think Nelson was the guy who emerged as a workhorse back, or as you called it, an every down back. So he really helped shape the offensive attack for the next decade with the success that he had running the rock, and we still see a lot of that Peter Nelson style in the teams today, and I think that vaults him into the top 5 for me, just the way he was able to help shape the way Breckenridge football's played.
Chris and Peter both kind of do a lot of the same things for me as far as where I put them up at, and he had production as well as passing the eye test for sure. So Peter, that's probably how he ends up in the top 5, and that's your number 4 as well? Okay,
that's my number 4 as well. Let's go into your top 3 here.
For my number 3 pick, I got Casey Lipp. Well, clearly we went off different criteria, which is fine, because Casey Lipp actually originally kind of made his hay as a receiver. He was an incredible slot receiver that didn't get a super crazy amount of touches out of the backfield, if I remember correctly, going off my memory. Don't rely on that all the time, but his senior year, that's where his touches, I feel like, were pretty balanced, but it was probably like a 70-30 split if I had to guess, just going off memory once again. Most of his production came out of the backfield, so I think that fit the criteria for running back. So that's why he's my pick. He was a conference MVP his senior year. His junior year, he was uber productive too, even though it was mostly at receiver and also as a kick returner. I think he had multiple kick return touchdowns over his junior and senior year. And as good of a playmaker, just like we were talking about.
Super electric, yeah.
But someone who kind of looks, maybe passes the eye test a little bit more as you look like a running back when I walk up to you, looks like a running back when you watch him play, even though it was a little weird right away after thinking of him as a Wes Welker type, for a while. And then all of a sudden it's wait a minute, have we had this jet speedster out of the backfield this entire time that we haven't been using? So his senior year, I thought his senior year was enough to put him over Peter Nelson. Even though Peter ended up having more touchdowns, was the more like complete running back. Casey Lipp was just that dynamic in my book.
Yeah, Casey Lipp definitely worthy here. And Casey Lipp doesn't make my top 15, but you could take anybody off this list and put somebody else in.
For sure. The same reasons I have him on here are like the same reasons I don't have Steven higher, which is weird. Like my criteria is kind of wishy-washy, but I'm pretty much vaulting his senior year. That I've given a lot of weight to it, I guess I would say. So tell me a little bit of how Hunter got into your top 3.
Well, I got Cam Neto.
Oh, Cam 3, sorry.
Cam Neto at 3, and Cam Neto just like animal.
Yep.
Absolute animal. He actually gave himself a couple concussions. That is a true story because he had such a penchant for contact. Instead of running out of bounds, Cam would seek out defenders and try to get the know where the sticks are, or sometimes where he should have ran out of bounds, he just wanted to hit somebody. So, I mean, that was super fun to watch and able to come back from those concussions relatively quick and be productive again.
For my number 2 pick, I got Cam Neto.
So at OTC,
but he came back in the OTC section championship.
Came back from a concussion in the section championship. He ripped off that long touchdown run, and it was nice to see him back in that game. And basically that year, too, they modified their formation a little bit to have Neto come in motion and take the handoff moving forward out of the backfield. And what a terrible development for defenders. They'd have him come from the left side. He'd loop around, take the handoff, and he'd have a full head of steam. Defenders just took a lot of punishment. And I think that guy, we talk about speed and power, he might be number 1 in terms of the combination of speed and power. And his peak is just, a fever dream for high school football fans. When he was on, I remember you doing the stream at OTC, and everybody and their mother had OTC winning that game. And I looked up, and Breck was up by like 3 touchdowns, and it was just Cam Neto down the sideline, Neto down the sideline, Cam Neto through the linebacker, and just as good of a peak of any running back for Breck, and then just unafraid of hard contact and dishing it out.
If we were doing Madden ratings on this, his truck stick would be a 99. Like, nobody bulldozed like Cam Neto did. And I remember him getting to showcase that in his first game he played for Breck. Actually started out as a QB here.
Yeah.
Funny enough, like where Chris also came in like as a QB, and then it's like, wow, apparently you're better at running back.
And this will be a great clip in this video when we upload it to that first game at QB, takes off up the left sideline, destroys a kid at about the 20-yard line, and then he's right back up to top speed.
Yep.
And nobody caught him.
He was his speed almost like flew under the radar because of how physical he was when he would thump you. But like you said, there were some times you're like, what are you doing, Cam? You're really just seeking out the contact here, but you wouldn't change him, because then all of a sudden he's not going to be running the same way. But you want a quick shout out to Feigum?
Yeah, I got Feigum at number 2 here. And where did you have Feigum on at this list?
Let's see. I think I had him at 6.
At 6? That sounds right.
Oh, yeah, because Vizzy and Lip I originally didn't even have on the list because they were such tweeners. So I had them at 4 originally. So
I got Feigum at 2 on my list of top 15 running backs from Breck for last 20 years. I coached Hunter in junior high baseball, so he was always the toughest kid that I coached or have been around in sports. And he would actually, don't try this at home, but when we needed a base runner, he would actually sometimes throw his head into the pitch. His batting helmet, high fastball, throw his head into the pitch, get on base. And no, I did not teach him that. But on the football field, that's why he's in my number 2 spot, because in addition to being a 1,000-yard rusher, he was a tremendous blocker. I mean, he on a QB keeper, he would get 20 yards down the field and throw a kid into their own sideline. So, I mean, he was pretty selfless. He wasn't watching the plays. He was a great blocker. He'd push people into the end zone so McGow could score touchdowns. And the fact that he played middle linebacker and a little bit undersized, very fast, which helps in a high school linebacker, but he would sacrifice his body. His white jersey would be black by the end of the game, and he was still able to handle the bulk of the carries on offense, and probably my favorite tailback to watch pop some pads, because he is just, I mean, I can't imagine for the coaching staff trying to like get the play call into him and like go over things with him, because in many ways, like David Erlinson, I mean, he's just wired. He's just juiced up the whole game, and he's a little bit psycho, a little bit psycho out there. And
yeah, he's a guy that will give you one of the hardest hits you've had all year, and then when you're getting up, he'll pat you on the back while you're doing it and be like, "You having fun?"
I don't know how to feel about it.
We having fun? You're just like, "Yeah, this guy's too nice." But yeah, he was a joy to cover. And as as like sometimes there's guys who just like for some reason hit harder. It doesn't really make sense. Like I've seen guys bigger, stronger, faster than you, but you hit harder. It just doesn't really make sense. And for one of mine, that would be Hunter for me, just personally.
For the unanimous top spot, I think widely unanimous amongst Cowboy fans. I could be wrong. I think we're on the same page.
For the last 20 years, we're just going to always say that. We're not saying all time. We're just saying for the last 20 years.
Maybe all time, but yes, the last 20 years.
We're going to go with Steven Erlandson as our top pick, both of us. I actually graduated with Steven, and I know Robert was a year older, so maybe it's going to sound like a little bit of bias, but Steven was incredible. Steven got called up as a freshman. It's like one of the first freshmen to get called up in like decades, it seemed like. And then helped win a section championship as a freshman, was a go-to back his sophomore year. And then his junior year alone gets him that number one spot, even though he was productive his sophomore year. And then his senior year is banged up, still productive, but not up to the standards of his junior campaign. I think we said he had like 1,800 yards, 20 TDs or something.
Yeah, 1,800 plus yards.
Good Lord.
25 scores. And to my knowledge, the only Cowboy running back even sniffing or getting close to that coveted 2K mark for rushing yards every season. 11 games, 1,800 yards. You do the math. All-state honorable mention. And you look at the running backs, we talked about all this different criteria. Just take it all and put it into one running back, and you have Steven. You have the highlights, you have the speed, you have the power, you have the mental edge. And he, I think, is by far and away on this list number one.
Conference MVP his junior year, and the only time that anyone has ever walked up to me and like actually had to try to have a serious discussion on who was better was when Cam came. So that's kind of a big gap. Nobody was really questioning it for a bit here. I remember telling someone that Feigin was like the best I'd seen since Steven. I was like, he's really, really good and brings that physicality like Steve does. But breakaway speed, his sophomore year, I feel like he was even bigger. I could be wrong on that. Like I could just be it seemed like he was like more of a power back his sophomore year, and that didn't seem like it was like what he needed to be doing. So he kind of tinkered a little bit.
And learned a little bit about the benefits of economy of movement, maybe not taking so much damage.
Yeah. So his junior, I mean, we had some other guys on the team, obviously, who could get the rock too. I had mentioned Brian Boss and Cole Prouse were both backups on that team, but Steven was just like a guy you could build the whole offense around. You wouldn't feel bad about it. And he was running behind his brother Greg, who is one of the best fullbacks that we've seen over the last 20 years as well. Greg
let out the biggest lion's roar grunt every time he'd hit the hole, whether it was blocking or whether it was carrying it. You could be way up in the bleachers, and you knew Greg was in the hole doing some dirty work in there.
Oh, all the stuff that flies under the radar, Greg takes care of. But Steven was very incredibly dynamic and a guy who could score in a variety of ways too. Getting him the ball out of the backfield, and I know we're just doing running back stuff, but also return multiple kicks and punts throughout his career. And also, if we want to talk about defense a little bit, I know we're doing the whole running back thing, but also one of the conference leaders in sacks as a defensive end, which is kind of bizarre when you see him in person, when you find out he played defensive end. But I'm glad that both of us can come to a consensus that Steven would be the number one pick. I mean, like, as far as like overall like football player total package, I'd feel comfortable putting him against any of the guys on this list. But if we were just saying like best flat out football player, I'd be okay with being like Stephen Lips as good as I've seen, Steven Erlandson too, Brian
Jakovich, Hunter Feigin, maybe two ways side of the whale.
For sure.
They're all in the conversation. The production though.
Yeah.
I mean, if production was 1A on our list of criteria, I mean, Steven just brought it year after year, like you said, as a freshman call up to the varsity team. And we're just talking about how good Cam and Hunter are and some of these other guys, and we're still kind of talking how far apart they are from our number one spot. Because Steven's just that good, and you got to give him nothing against the other guys. You just got to give him his roses. It was pretty cut and dry for both of us, I feel like. And another college football player in Steven, and I don't think people understand this. Like 7% or less play college football at any level, whether it's D3 JUCO or D1. He went on to Northern State. Had his moments at running back, had a really nice stretch as a returner where I believe he averaged around 25 yards per kick return, which is a healthy chunk. So he went on and, played at the next level, and that should be the goal of, every Cowboy running back coming through.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of any other guys that were conference MVPs other than him and Casey Lipp. I'm trying to think.
It's got to be a pretty short list. I don't know if Steven was in there. If he got co-conference MVP, he had to have been in the mix for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't have record books for reference here, folks, so we're kind of spitballing with I guess a little bit of a sports background. We both.
Yeah. We're going out the eye test once again on a lot of these, and we're just doing this for fun. Obviously, I've changed my list 3 or 4 times just today, so clearly there's a lot of movement that could go on here. And if there's any guys that we left off, feel free to let us know. Send us an email on the studio email studio@kbmwnews.com. If there's someone you think we overlooked, hopefully it's just of the last 20 years, because that's what we were talking about. So if you're like, how come you didn't have my buddy from 1991? Then
your great grandfather doesn't have enough film. I'm sorry.
You don't know that, but Great Graham game was at all the games. But anything else you'd like to have before we wrap it up, or anything you'd like to maybe tease, or some potential stuff that you think would maybe be some good ideas we could do on the pod? I was thinking we could do like a best team of the last 20 years, maybe.
We'd have a pretty good list there. I think, like you just mentioned, shoot us an email. We'd love to, once we start promoing this stuff, we'd love to go over some of the submissions. And when this video goes up on the Facebook and on YouTube, go ahead and comment who your top running backs are. Just take it easy on us because, like I said, we didn't have a whole lot to reference. I think we did our due diligence the best we could, but I'd like to hear who some of your guys are, or some of your honorable mentions are, from all you Cowboy football fans out there at the Voice of the Valley.
Yeah. You played with these guys. Yep, I'm aware, and I'm still telling you that at least one of them is still better than all the other ones.
They would all fold me like a pretzel. That's why they're on the list. They would crush me.
Well, I'm looking forward to see what kind of feedback we get from this. We're trying to do some more kind of fun historical look back kind of stuff just on like the last 20 years of local athletics. We're also hoping to do some Wahpeton oriented stuff. Obviously, both of us grew up in Breck, so that might be a little more of the last 10 years when we were a little more kind of paid attention obviously to what was going on in with the Huskies and all of that. But we're hoping to do this all year too, so make sure to tune in, whether it is on the podcast section of our website or on our YouTube channel or on our socials. Either way, thanks for tuning in on the Voice of the Valley, and let us know. Send us some ideas your way to studio@kbmwnews.com. Thanks for joining, Robert.
Thank you.